Good day and welcome back to my game with DrGaming. This is round 5 of the Flying Swiss tournament of February 2022, and we are playing in the semi-finals round, so round 5 is semi-finals, and just going into day number 4, we've completed 3 full days. And having a look at this, DrGaming is 5 stars off the required star total, so we'll quite almost definitely reach it this cycle, and probably reach it before, well, in 12 hours is my guess. But let's have a look at how things are going. We can see over in the east, let's work east to west. DrGaming has 19 ships coming to this star, which will then be able to jump over to my home, well, not my home star, my backline star back here. So I'm going to need to send some ships that way to protect it before DrGaming gets there. In the center, my 18 ships here and 16 here, they'll stay protected for now. They won't be lost, but they won't last very long. I've got 43 ships here plus another 23 incoming, so that's plenty enough to defend against DrGaming's ships on these 3 stars. My extra fleet of 153 will not get in because of DrGaming's 150 ships on that star. Come and have a look over here. We've got 58 ships on this star. That's plenty enough to defend against these 49. But we've got an additional 38 and 12, plenty enough to, well, the 12 are enough to take on this star. Not quite this one just yet, but the 38 are enough to take on all 3 stars. So already we see 1, 2, or that one doesn't look like DrGaming's going for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars for DrGaming, and that's the required total. But let's have a look at the stats now. Am I behind overall? Yeah, well, half the number of carriers. I'm 100 ships down, and DrGaming produces 4 ships per tick more than me, so I'm definitely behind in ship count, and that's what really matters in this place, in this situation. However, I am ahead in terraforming and banking, and only slightly behind in economy. So my total income was 35 credits more than DrGaming, and my infrastructure is cheaper, so small blessings, I suppose. But I will go ahead, build infrastructure, move my carriers, and then bring you back in once I'm done that. I've now given orders to carriers. I've built a few more carriers, so I saw that these 19 ships could come in here, and I decided I'm going to defend that. So I've got the 5 ships from there, 7 from there, and 6 from there, all coming to this star to defend in time. So that's about 18 ships going to come to defend against 19. That will be easily doable. I'm happy with that. I've got this carrier picking up ships from this star and dropping them on this star here on Azimak, so that I can maintain a presence on this side. On the back line, I'm pretty much just putting ships together. Bringing ships to the front line. The manufacturing's putting the ships together for me. And then I decided to drop off 13 ships here, so I've got 41 defending. I think it was 13. Yeah, 13 ships, so I've got 41 defending. That's enough to take out 55 ships if they attack, which is exactly how many we've got coming in here. So hopefully with DrGaming's hesitancy, we'll be able to defend this star for a little while longer. And I've got the other 17 ships heading this way, so I'll be able to drop off 16 and retreat my carrier back to the back line to prevent DrGaming from taking that star at least. As to research, I've decided I'll go for terraforming. I'll get that done before I buy economy on the next cycle, and then go for another level of banking before the end of the cycle. Okay, so the ticks just progressed, and I've glanced down here and I see that my move to this star was successful. So we see that DrGaming has sent 21 ships over there, and I sent 17 ships over there. So 17 is enough to take out 21, because 21 takes 5 rounds of defense. They get 4 rounds of attack, which kills 16. So I will end up with exactly 1 ship on that star, and my carrier can come back home to pick up more ships. But if we have a look back here, we see that DrGaming needs 3 more stars to win. 1 star here. This star will still take a bit longer. This star is successfully protected, and so is this one. So DrGaming will have to send those in if he wishes to take either of these or both of those this time, this cycle. Looking over here, this star will be able to go soon. DrGaming hasn't launched towards Jabba, but it won't be long until that happens. If I wouldn't be surprised anyway if that's the case. And everything else looks normal. My orders are in, and there's only one thing I really want to note before moving on to the next turn, and that's we can see that DrGaming has done a huge science push. They're now up to 40 science. They weren't that far before. If we have a look at science here, they did a nice big jump there. 7 science, and that's caught them up a fair way. So they're probably trying to catch up to me in technology. I'm still ahead in terraforming and banking, but they could easily just research manufacturing from here on out and get the extra ships to just overwhelm me. Not that it really matters, I'll be losing in a few turns anyway, but that's definitely a valid strategy that DrGaming could go for. But as I said, there's nothing really apart from that I need to note. These 24 ships, I'll be garrisoning this star with 19 ships, because that's enough for me to produce enough ships to defend against this fleet. And the rest of those ships will be heading this way to hopefully defend against any possible attacks that DrGaming might make. Okay, so we've now moved on, and depending on how eagle-eyed you all are, you may have already spotted my impending doom. So DrGaming needs 2 more stars to win. I'm not sure which star he took in the meantime, but there's only 2 stars left to take, and those stars will be this one here and this one here. So before, when I managed to defend that star by 1 ship, DrGaming had 17 ships left on this star that he could easily just bring in, and he's done so. And we can see that we've got 41 ships here, got 56 ships coming in. 55 ships takes 12 rounds of defense to defeat, and I've only got 11 rounds of attack there. I can only survive 11 rounds of attack. So I don't have enough ships there. So that's the end of the game right here. I could submit, DrGaming could submit, and that's game over. I will finish the rest of my moves, but that's it for the game. I could also bring my ships from this star over to this star, and with those extra ships, retake this star, prevent the game from reaching that 1 condition, and just be a general nuisance to DrGaming, but I'm not going to do that. The game's already over, and that would just delay the game unnecessarily further now that DrGaming has achieved the win. Also, something interesting, or something to note, DrGaming sent 100 fleets down there, so I've only got 4 hours reaction time, and that's a mistake by me because I thought I had enough reaction time to stop that fleet, but it turns out I don't. It takes 6 hours to get back to this fleet, to that star, so DrGaming can get in well before I do. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to build a warp gate on this star because that's just too expensive, not worth it. So I'm going to build a carrier here. I'm going to leave 80 ships behind on that star and send the rest into Haldus. So let's do that now. Why am I doing that? Well, okay, so we've got 100 ships on this star here. If DrGaming builds a warp gate on this star, then my 80 ships defending there will defeat his 100 coming in with the warp gate. Now, if I were to send more ships over, well, if I were to send less ships over here, I could still take it. DrGaming has 100 ships there, which means I'd need 125 to take that out. Actually, it would be 131 ships I'd need to take this out, and I've still got plenty of ships for that. But leaving the 80 ships means I move as many ships towards the front line as possible, which is the best way to defend. If you're going to defend against a fleet coming in behind your front lines, then leave as few ships as possible to defend that, so you can have as many ships on the front line as possible, putting pressure back on your opponent. I do have an extra 38 ships here, so why am I leaving 80 here and not 40 ships here? Well, because if DrGaming lands here and then decides to bounce off this star and head there, or head somewhere else, say one of these two stars, then these 38 ships will be needed to defend these stars. And in addition to that, I also need these 38 ships to help defend if DrGaming decides to bounce and come this way. So that's why I've got 37 ships there, and I'm not sending more than, well, I'm not keeping less than 80 ships on that home star. There aren't really any other moves that I need to explain, need to go over. So I'll quickly do the rest of my moves, get this last turn out of the way, and bring you back in to see the game conclusion. Orders are given, carriers have been moved, ships have been built. Let's have a look at how the game ends. Well, that's anticlimactic. DrGaming hasn't submitted yet. Okay, so I've messaged DrGaming on Discord to let them know that there was one turn left that they could submit and win, and they've replied letting me know that they've done so. So now let's go in and see how the game ends. And there we go, game over, DrGaming has won. So let's have a look at the overall map. We can see that DrGaming has the warp gate network that I was planning on building on my side between these stars, and also one in the center, and then DrGaming also added this one and that one. Okay, maybe these stars were naturally warp gated. I just thought DrGaming captured that without a warp gate. Looking over in the center, so DrGaming won by capturing these two stars and also went on and took this one. So even if I moved my fleet from this star and came over here, I'd still have lost because DrGaming could have taken that one right there. On the front line, still had 100 ships left. I managed to recapture this star here, but with heavy losses. Only 39 ships compared to the 100 that DrGaming brought in. So that was a bad loss for me. I would have continued to protect these flanks for a while, but it wouldn't have been hard at all for DrGaming to push me out of them with just a small concerted effort. And I would have retaken this had we gone on another turn, but the game finished before anything much could happen. So what do I think happened this game? What went wrong? How did I get into this position? I started off with a very strong science push, and I don't think there's anything wrong with doing so. Science can be quite powerful, and if you're willing to use it right, then it will help you a lot. But I put maybe the upper end of what you could expect in science, and that left me with very little cash. And that still would have been alright, but on the very next turn, I went and made some foolish mistakes in the center. So you'll remember that I moved my ships from this star to this star, and I built a warp gate right here. So there were a couple of problems with that. One is that DrGaming had a warp gate here, and I should have known he was going to build it, because I was going to build one as well. And also, I moved my fleet away from that warp gate, so I couldn't protect it. That meant that I just wasted $200 in getting 20 ships, I think it was, up to this front line, and they weren't very useful defending against the 100 plus ships that DrGaming had on his warp gate. And the third reason I think that was a big mistake is I only had 300 credits total that round. I was down to 50 credits by the end of the first turn, and that's not a good position to be in, especially if it's cycle number 2. In the first turn of cycle number 2, we've got a lot of cash in this game, and to go down to that little cash that early, it meant I had very little options of building infrastructure as I expanded, and also just general maneuverability. So I think that's where my problems were. I spent too much on science in the first round, compounded with foolish warp gate. Building it here would have been better, and retreating my ships off the warp gate. I should have kept them here so I could have maintained a solid presence in the center. But please let me know what else you think I could have done differently this game, if there were any other mistakes, glaring mistakes that you think contributed to my loss, that without it I might have won. And yeah, I'd just be curious in general as to your opinion on this game.